food. Buy it with thought, cook it with care, use less sweetened meat, buy local foods, serve just enough, use what's left, and don't waste anything. My wife Christiana bought that sign over a decade ago and hung it in our kitchen in one of our first few apartments, and I thought it was neat, but never has it meant more to me than it has over the last few weeks. I love cooking, and over the last few weeks I've really learned how to change my approach to cooking. So I'm going to share some of those things that I've done all along with you, and I'm going to share some of the things that have changed. But either way, we're going to have a good time. So I'd like you to welcome you into my kitchen, and let's cook. Hey there, and welcome to my kitchen. I'm here today to answer that age-old question that pops into your mind all the time. What the heck do I do with a ham bone, right? What the heck do I do with a ham bone? And what you should do with a ham bone is make soup. And so today, I'm gonna make some bean and ham soup in honor of Christiana's grandmother. That's Christiana's grandma, Marge. She passed away right before our wedding in 2014. I'm gonna put together in a couple different stages some navy bean and ham soup. So I'm gonna get the pot going here, and I'm gonna add some olive oil to the pot here while I'm talking to you and get ready to tell you how this whole thing is gonna unfold. And then I'm gonna show you some of the ingredients I'm gonna use. We're gonna start with a really nice helping of mirepoix vegetables here. Carrot, celery, and onion. What the heck is mirepoix, you say? Well, mirepoix is something you cook slow. Typically it's these three main ingredients. You cook it slow to bring the sweetness out, and then that's a layer of flavor that goes into your food, and so much of food is about layering your flavors. Then I've got the ham bone, which I already showed you. I've got some of the leftover ham, which I diced up, and we'll save that and add that a little bit later. I've got some fresh chopped thyme, some chopped garlic, some Joe steak seasoning, because everything's good with Joe steak seasoning. I got a couple bay leaves. I'm gonna add some ground cumin and some chili flake. Normally I'd like to use smoked paprika, but I don't have any, and we don't go shopping every day like we used to. And then of course wine goes into everything around here. I use mostly water for my soup stock, but I am gonna add 1 container of chicken broth just to add another depth of flavor. And then over here I've got my beans, which have been soaking overnight, and I've got some parboiled potatoes in the potato starch water. So now that this oil's come up to heat, I should get a little sizzle. No, not yet. I'm gonna wait to add that because I want my pan to be hot before I start to add the mirepoix vegetables. And then I'm gonna turn the heat down and just let them simmer for a little while. Yep, that's it. I just got that little sizzle that I was looking for. I'm gonna angle my camera down here for a second now so you can see what's going on at the stove. And I will look for a wooden utensil. I always prefer to use wooden utensils because I've got some nice cookware. I'm blessed to have some nice cookware here. So I'm using my large Le Creuset here, and I'm just gonna get this all tossed around. And I'm gonna let that start to sweat out, and I'm gonna season it liberally. So Joe steak seasoning is a combination of Mulder sea salt, cherry black pepper, shallot, garlic, and onion, and a little bit of sugar. So we're gonna season those vegetables liberally, because I season everything at every layer, and that's how you get that depth of flavor. So while that's cooking, and I'm not gonna cook it as long as I would normally cook mirepoix, because this soup is gonna cook so long that the vegetables would start to disintegrate. So I just wanna bring some of that sweetness and flavor out. And then I'm gonna add the beans. So these beans are actually Great Northern beans. Navy bean, northern beans, they're essentially the same. I'm gonna go drain them really quick. I'll be right back. So I sorted through these last night. They're really clean. I didn't find too many bad ones or nothing else. You gotta sort through beans to make sure you don't have any rocks or anything in there. Great Northern beans are a little bit bigger than navy beans. I like them. I think they have a really nice depth of flavor and a really nice texture. Great Northern beans come from North Dakota. They're from an indigenous person tribe. I think it's, I looked it up before this video, but I don't remember. I feel badly now. As opposed to navy beans, which are more of a canned bean that you use for pork and beans, and they got their name because the U.S. Navy in the 1800s started using them widely on ships, so that's how they got the name navy beans. So I'm gonna let those drain completely, and then they're gonna go in here with the mirepoix pretty soon. So this is probably like 3 to 5 minutes, I think. Normally I cook my mirepoix for about 10 to 12 minutes, but like I said, I want it to be a little bit less cooked through so it doesn't lose its texture completely. So I'm never gonna cover that while it's cooking. I'm just gonna put my lids over here on Emma's high chair, which is, this is my kitchen. So it's not the biggest kitchen. See, I've got this great pantry over here though. So we can store a lot of food, which is really helpful right now. We got Emma's high chair over here. Got this really cool fridge. It's a little dated, but it works really well. And we got my small cook space over here with the dishwasher and the sink. And then this is my cooking range. This is a vintage, circa 1970 caloric range. It's the greatest piece of cooking equipment I've ever used in my life. It's super old, and our owners asked if we wanted a new one when they bought the property from our previous owners, and we actually said no. We really love the range. It seldom got used because the guy that lived up in this unit for many years was single, and he never did any cooking. His sister lived downstairs, so our idea was that she did all the cooking and they ate everything downstairs together. So when we had this thing hooked up to the gas and we moved in, the tech from People's Gas said he couldn't believe it was nearly brand new and over 50 years old. So I feel really honored to use this piece of cookware that John Ciccone, who was born in this unit and lived here his whole life, seldom used. And John still visits us. As a matter of fact, he might have just been here a little while ago because my daughter was running around going, "Where's that guy? Where's that guy?" And she was rolling around the house looking for his spirit. And we know John lives here with us. He's come and visited us many times. That's another story for a different cooking show, though. So once this gets going, this is all going to come together in about 10 minutes, and then it's going to simmer for ages. So you can kind of see this is just starting to brown a little bit here. Okay, it's got a nice heat going, okay, good temp. But I don't want it to actually brown. I want it to just, I just want it to bring out the flavors, different than caramelizing vegetables. It's a whole different technique. So now that the beans are drained, I've got just these good 2 pounds of Great Northern beans. I'm gonna put those right in there. Probably a little bit more beans than I'd actually like to have, but what I'll often do is I'll take some of those out and puree them and put them back into the soup to give it a little bit more thickness. Although I think this will thicken up because some of these beans are going to break down. Okay, so I need to re-season again, of course. So again, pretty liberally. I don't want it to be all pepper, so I'm probably going to bring in a little salt that's not Joe's steak seasoning, and I use sea salt all the time. This is just Trader Joe's. You can use higher quality sea salt, and I have some of them. But for this application, probably don't need much more. I don't want to over salt it because I'm working with a Hambone, which is going to create saltiness also. I can always layer in more seasoning later if I want to. And then once I get the beans all coated, I'm going to give it a hit with some white wine. Just use whatever white wine you got. This happens to be a Chardonnay. I'm not particularly fussy about that. And that's just going to wake up the flavor on the bottom of the pan. And then I'm going to bring in the rest of my my seasoning. There's the garlic. Here's the chopped thyme. I have some ground sage here. Would I love to have some fresh sage? Yes. I just throw a bouquet garni of tied sage leaves in there, but I don't have any. And I can't go grocery shopping, like I said. A little bit of cumin. That's going to replace the smoked paprika. It gives it that smoky flavor. And just a little bit of heat. Not too much. Kind of get that all moved around, especially the garlic. I want to get that distributed. Ta-da! And now it's time to cover the beans in the liquid they're going to cook in. I'm going to start with 1 container of chicken stock, but I don't need to use all chicken stock because I'm going to get so much flavor from the Hambone that I can use a bunch of water in this too. So the water I'm going to start with is going to be the water that I parboiled my potatoes in, because that's going to have some nice flavor from the potatoes, and it's going to have some starchiness too, which is going to help thicken up the soup. And then I'm just going to leave those parboiled potatoes over here. Those are going to go in the soup at the very end. As a matter of fact, To stop cooking, so I'm actually going to put them in some cold water over there on the other side of the kitchen right now. Okay, so now I'm going to take this ham bone and I'm just going to nuzzle it in here, get it underneath everything. And I'm going to take these 2 bay leaves, beautiful bay leaves. Bay leaves make everything taste better. I use them in so many different foods. And the last thing I need to decide is whether or not I have enough water. So this is the biggest pot I've got. I actually probably should have used my bigger pot. And I could get out and I could switch all that now. But I think if I'm gonna slow simmer this, it's not gonna be rising up around the edges, and I should be okay with what I've got here. So I'm gonna add some more water. Parboil these potatoes in salted water so that the flavor permeated into the potato, just so you know. And then we're just gonna bring that up to temp. So once that comes up to simmer, it's good to go. And then I'll just crack the lid and let it simmer for about 2 hours till those beans are cooked and all those ham flavors are in there. So I'll be back later this afternoon showing you how I finish this soup and put it together and have our first serving. Take care. Okay, so welcome back. It's been about 2 hours and this soup has been simmering nicely, and I'm gonna finish it up and show you how we wrap this whole thing up. We've got a big reduction here going on. So as you can see, the pot has significantly reduced, and you can see that ham bone has really started to, the meat has started to pull away from the bone, and all those flavors have gone into that. And what I've done is I've taken some of the beans in the soup out that I'm gonna puree and put back in. So let's show you how this finishes up here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the soup bone out. Turn on the music a little bit too so you can hear me. So you can see this beautiful soup bone. You can see how much smaller it is now. I'm gonna let that cool for a minute or two before I handle it. And then I'm gonna show you, I've got this great immersion blender here. If you don't have this, it's no big deal. You can use a blender, you can use a potato masher, you can use a whisk. You just have to work a little bit harder. But I'm gonna take these beans and some of the liquid that I took out, and I took the carrots that I could get out of the top and put them back into the soup. But it's okay if we puree a few of them too. So I'm gonna just hit this a few times. We're gonna change that texture. We're pureeing some of these beans. I'm going slow so I don't make a mess. My wife will tell you I like to make a mess. I'm really good at it, actually. I don't claim to be a neat cook. I claim to be a good cook, though. And once you got, oh, there's my mess. Once you've got it pretty well blended, then I can just hit it all and let it rock. Some people do this right in the pan, but I don't really like to do that because it damages and bruises all of the beans, and I only want some of them to be affected. So I'm gonna let that sit for a few minutes there. And here I also have those parboiled potatoes. I found out that they actually weren't parboiled, they were actually boiled. So I didn't put them in for the last half an hour of cooking because I didn't want them to turn to mush. And then I've got some of the ham that I saved from around the ham bone before I cooked it, because there's some ham underneath the bottom of the ham, which isn't just great eating, but this is gonna give it some nice texture. So the ham that's on the bone that I'm gonna clean off is gonna be more cooked, but this is gonna be a little bit less cooked, so it's gonna give it a little bit more pop flavor-wise. And then at the end, I'm just gonna garnish it with some nice chopped scallions. So I'm gonna get into one of my knives here. I'm gonna take my bigger knife. I'm gonna see what's going on with this soup bone here. So there's some great meat here. So this was a spiral sliced ham. So all this meat here right around the bone, a lot of the fat cooked into the soup, but all this meat around the bone is still right there. And then right here at the hock, like this is the best part right here. So I'm gonna go right into that. It's super hot. Ideally, I would let this cool for a while before I tried to get in here, but I don't have like stop time animation on my cooking show here, so I'm just gonna let it roll. And I can get in here later and pick this apart in better detail, but for now, just to show you what we've got going on, I'm gonna move that out of the way, and I'm gonna take this glorious fatty ham. It's funny because I'm not a big pork guy. I don't eat a lot of pork, but when it comes to making soups, there's really nothing quite like it. I don't mind some of the fat, but I don't want like a big hunk of fat. And I know for sure my wife, Christiana, doesn't want a big hunk of fat when she takes a bite of her soup. So I'm gonna make sure that I don't have any bones in here, because I might feed some of this to Emma too. So we don't want Emma to get a bone in her soup. And there, see, there's a piece right there. That's part of the bone in the leg. So, all right. So I think I got most of the good meat here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna chop that up. Yeah, that's fantastic. So I've got my soup here, and I'm going back to my wooden utensil. And there's a lot of really good beans in here. I want to show you, like, I'll show you the texture of these beans. See, they still held their texture really nice, so it's not going to be a mushy soup. And it's pretty simple from here. I'm going to take the pureed beans and put them in there to get some texture. I don't want to waste. I've learned to be way less wasteful during this worldwide pandemic and scarcity mindset of food. Although I don't have scarcity mindset, it's funny how this has actually taken me out of scarcity mindset, because I have a better appreciation for the resources I have. And I don't worry about what I don't have. I just use what I got. So I'm going to mix that up. And then you sort of get the pureed beans and the beans together. It's perfect. I'm going to go back in with the really heavily cooked ham. And I'm going to go in with the less cooked ham. I mean, it's all cooked, but some of it hasn't sat in boiling liquid for 2 hours. And then these beautiful potatoes. That was about 5 or 6 potatoes, 5 medium-sized potatoes. It's just going to give it some texture. It's going to give you more bites, good delicious mouth-filling bites. And then I want to check it for seasoning, because like I said, I can re-season it at the end if it needs more. But I got a pretty good feeling about this. Yeah, that ham bone, wow. That ham bone gave me everything I needed. It's sweet and salty, and it has many layers of flavor. I couldn't be any happier. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a little bowl here. I'm gonna ladle some of this up. Get some potatoes, some beans, some delicious ham, some carrots. You don't get any of that ham, that bay leaf, you don't want that. I'm just gonna garnish it with some chopped green onions. Now, I hear it goes really well with cornbread, and I've got this gluten-free cornbread mix. I didn't make this for lunch. I'll make this for dinner though. I don't need to show you how to make Trader Joe's cornbread. I think you can figure that out on your own. And there you have it. Delicious white Great Northern bean and ham soup for lunch and pleasure. So thanks for joining me for my first ever cooking video series. This turned out pretty well, and I don't think I look like a fool. I'll be back to show you some of the other things I do in the kitchen, like chicken parmesan and maybe ramen I get asked about a lot. So this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, peace. Welcome to my kitchen.